Hi, everyone. Can you say me if you hear me well, please? Okay. Hello. Let me introduce myself. I am Reyee Avellaneda. I am a pre and post sales engineer of EPCOM. So welcome to this course. Let me wait 1 minute more and we will start. So enjoy it. Okay. So let's get started. Um, So again, welcome to the course. The name of the course is Express Training, Basic Configuration of Reyee Networks, Gateway, Switch, and Access Point. And first of all, I'm gonna asking you, so please download the Reyee and Reyee application in your App Store or in your Google Play Store, and please scan this QR code. You only have to download the app, create an account, and later, after you log in, click here and scan this QR code. You have to scan into the app and not with your normal camera in your phone or your tablet. So I will wait 3 minutes and I will start. Okay, let's get started. First of all, let me show you the agenda of this course. Is a little long, but is very complete. First of all, we will see an introduction of our network infrastructure, project creation, and a brief of the cloud. Later, we will see the different devices of our network infrastructure, like a router, a switch, an access point, and at the end, we will see the key features of the brand, of some of key features of the brand, like captive portal, how to do an block and flow control of the application, how to share our project, and how to do a NAT transversal. So this is a brief of we will see here. So let's get started. So we will start with an introduction of the brand of the network infrastructure of our network. So our network is basically this is a is a gateway or is a router, and is directly plugged into our switch, and a smart switch, and this comes of two APs. So our router is 105p version 2, sorry, is a PoE router. It have 5 ports, 2 of them WAN ports and the rest of LAN ports. And our switch is a Easy Switch 205GCP, is a PoE switch with 5 ports. We will see more of them later. And we have 2 access point, one wall access point and one ceiling access point. The ceiling access point is 2260G, is a Wi-Fi 6, and is a very small infrastructure. We will see how to put this or how to see exactly the same in our app. So basically, this is our infrastructure. I have all the equipments here. They are factory reset, so they are exactly with the same configuration of by default. So we do the project creation. With Reyee and Reyee, we will create the project in some different ways, by web, by app, and by eWeb. And we will see everything like this image. And this is possible by a protocol, and his name is SON, is self-organized network, is basically a layer 2 protocol made by the brand, and they scan our network, all our connections, and create an scheme like you will see here. Um, and with this, we will have to only do one configuration of all the devices, and we will see here. So for this course, I will upload the project by app, by application. So let me show here my cell phone. 1 minute. Here is my cell phone. As you can see, I have here my Reyee and Reyee application. You can create the project and upload and upgrade all the devices by web or by eWeb if you want. So it's very easy. It's impressive to plug the router or plug our network infrastructure to the internet. Why? Because all the devices, we will see all the devices into the network, into the cloud. So it's impressive to put an internet current connection in our router or in our access point. So it's very simple to create a project. We only click here in add a project, and automatically the application asking us to if we have a access point or not. In my case, I have 2 access points, so I will click in yes. If I didn't have an access point, if I only have, for example, a router, we click in no, and we only have to scan the QR code that we will see in the sticker in our device. So we have to click here in yes, I have 2 access points, and we will see this. We will have to finish the cable connection in all of our devices and wait for at least 3 minutes. And later we will search in our internet connection to an SSID called Reyee M. As we can see, let me see here. If we click here in connect, we will see all the SSID or the access point available in my house. So I have 2 access points. but I only see one name. This is because the Reyee and Reyee works like a slave master method, so we only see one SSID of our network. I could have, for example, 20 or 30 access point, and I only see one of them, the master, and I only have to do the configuration of one, and they replicates all the connection in all of them. So sorry, I click here and I have connection to my main access point. So if I click in back, they scan all of our topology, and we will see exactly the same of my network infrastructure: an easy gateway, an easy switch, and two of the access point. So if I plug another device in this minute, I only have to click here in the tag again, and we will upload the topology. If after 1 or 2 months I decide to plug another device, I could plug, and the some principle we upload this device automatically. So I click here in start configuration, and he asking me for a project name, a management password, and a scenario. A project name is the name of all our project. We will enter to our network infrastructure by this name, this project name. For example, I will do test underscore webinar. So, and the management password is very important to take this into account. Why? Because this password will be used to enter to all the devices. If later in this course, if I do an eWeb or connection to my router, my switch, or my access point, I will be access to the devices by this password. So it's very important to save this password or remember very well. For this, we test 1, 2, 3, 4, and we will choose a scenario. This isn't change anything about the features that we will see, but I choose for this an office, for example, and we click in next. And later, they asking me if I have only one ISP or two, because we have two WAN connections in our router. In my case, I only have one ISP. So I didn't click here and in dual ISP links. So I only click here in next, and we will have to replace the default SSID as we see before, like Reyee, score, blah, blah, blah. And we will put a new one. Let me put webinar. And we have to choose the encryption mode. In this case, I will encrypt my my connection, and the password will be the same, test 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me check. Test 1, 2, 3, 4, and the SSID is called webinar. I click in save, and automatically they do the entire configuration, not only in my access point. This will be implemented in all of our network infrastructure, in the router, in the switch, and in our access point. As we can see here, the configuration is succeed, and we have to click here in connect. Let me turn on and off my Wi-Fi. And as we can see, the SSID called Reyee is disappear. That's why I replace them for the new ones calling webinar. So let me click here, and connect to my new, I think the password is changed. Yes, test 1, 2, 3, 4, and plug here in connect. And it's done. And if we click here, I already see all the features of the brand in my application. We will see this exactly the same if we upload all the devices by web or by eWeb. So as we can see, we can do a sort of configuration here. If we click in advanced or then a scenario, we will see the clients or some kinds features here in network. We will see some of them later. So let me show you how see exactly the same here by web, because all of our configuration we will do by our web. So let me show you. We only have to enter here to the cloud regionnetworks.com. Is very important to say and to emphasize here that we have to take in account the region of we enter to the cloud. I am in Latin America now, so I have to enter to the LA cloud. Why? Because all my projects will be uploaded on, we will see here in the Latin American cloud. If I am in USA, or if I am in Europe, we will enter to the region of the cloud in US, for example, and all the projects that I upload in US, we only see in the US cloud. So if you didn't have an account, click here and now can register one and create an account. So let me enter to my cloud and sorry. And we will see all of our projects. As we can see, we have here a list of the project by name. I have a demo project, and this is a demo project of um, or made by default by a scan the QR code that I showed you before. And I have the test webinar is the project that I recently created by my backpack. If I click here, we will see exactly the same as my application. Let me show you. Is exactly the same with some of the features here. And all the configuration that I made here in the cloud is automatic upload here in my application. And the opposite too. If I do some sort of configuration here in my application, we will see here in the cloud because it's the same project. So let me show you some of the features here in the cloud. As we can see here in the workspace page slide, we will see a brief of our network infrastructure here. If I click here in devices, I will see all my models, my serial numbers of my access point, of my easy gateway, of my switch. And this is very important to take into account because we have to be sure if the configuration status of all of the devices. Why? Because we need to have all of our devices sync into the cloud. Why? Because we could manage in this way. We can enter to the access point. We can enter to the easy gateway. We can enter to the easy switch by the cloud. And if we didn't sync, it's like I didn't plug anything. So it's very important to see the configuration status of all of the devices. And we have to see this synced, and we have to see this green LED in here. It's very important to upload all the firmware version. Why? Because monthly, bi-monthly, we have to do an upgrade of our firmware. Why? Because the devices we have to be in the same status of the cloud for a log, for some kind of source configuration, for example, or for integration model, etc. So as we can see here, we have all the latest configuration in the devices, and you can track all the configuration by here. For example, if I have to upload the this AP, we only have to click here in upgrade, and we can uh, do the tracking of this upgrade here. If we click here in logs, we will see the alarm, the upgrade log, the configuration log, the operation log, and the execution log. So if we click in upgrade log, we will see the status of the upgrades. In this case, I didn't have data because of our devices will be in the latest version. So for this part in devices, we will see anything if we click in the devices. Sorry for the noise. If we click in the devices, we will see a brief of them. For example, this is the gateway. We will see the ports. We will see the online clients, the device load, the PoE load, and we will see here all the devices directly plug into them, the client summary, the speed summary, and a sort of the topics here. We could see the traffic trend, the application traffic status, the IPs of the devices, and the log. Sorry. For example, the device is online, the device going online for the first time, etc., etc. And if we click here in configuration, we will see some of the main configuration of the router. We will see more of them later in the course. And here is very important. This topic is the eWeb. And what is an eWeb? eWeb is a tunnel. We will enter to the main configuration of the device clicking here in eWeb. It's very important to say that these kind of models of the devices didn't have a CLA or a serial. We only have this web CLA, and we will see some of the configuration of our devices, like logs, the current mode. For example, if we want to do a ping, for example, we only have to enter to our IP. If we will see the ARP, we only have to click here, and they automatically show us in a web CLA. So what else? We will see here the clients too, the online clients too, into the cloud. And this is very important to AE networking. If we click here in smart configuration, we will see a brief of some basic configuration in a basic network. For example, a VLAN, how to create a VLAN, how to create a wireless VLAN, how to do a NAC control, how to implement an IP, or how to do a management IP address of the access point, and how to do a smart WAN configuration. This is a brief of some of features of our network. And here in optimization, we will see another things like wireless intelligent optimization, the WIO, we will see later, the DHCP snooping, and a lot more. And a delivery, we can, to do the delivery report from here, we will see later in the course. And here in AI diagnostics, we will check the state of our network. If I click here in Try Now, they do an entire scan of our network. As we can see here, we will see an failure in our wireless connection, and we will check everything like the one link, like the session limit, like the DHCP, like the switching loop, the insufficient coverage in the wireless camp, and the PoE power, etc., etc. And we will see, for example, here, if I click here, they explain to me what happened. For example, they say here, over today, one issue are detected. The association failures may prevent clients to connect in the Wi-Fi networks. And we see the issue in this device, in the wall IP device. And verify if the Wi-Fi password is correct. And if we click here and go to settings, we will check if our password is correctly configured. So if I click again in AI and do the scan again, we have to wait to finish the first scan. So in other words, this is a very useful tool to see what happened in our network. We have here the network-wide field, and we see a lot of features in the network. For example, a brief of the network here in network, the multi-one field, the Wi-Fi optimization, the AA roaming, the loop prevention, etc., etc. And here in device config, we will see the features of our individual device. For example, the gateway, the switch, and the wireless. We will configure another SSID in the field of wireless. We will configure the VLAN in the field of switch and the gateway, and etc. Here in authentication and accounts, we will manage the user management, the captive portal. We will see this later in the course, and the allowed list, etc., etc. In the network, how this is in beta, we will do a Wi-Fi health and One Health. And here in the dashboard, we will see a network report, a voucher, a layout, and optical monitoring, a network overview, etc. Some of these features we didn't applicate it in of the device. For example, some of our home router didn't have the feature of the captive portal, for example, and I recommend to do the research of our device. So let me enter to the second part of our course. The second part is the devices. So we will split this part in switches, access point, and routers, because we have one switch, one router, and two access point in our network infrastructure. And we will show you some of the key features of the brand. As we can see here in this image, we have a lot of devices, a lot of range to choose what we need in our network. So we have to start here in Gateway. We will see a description of the device, how to see the ports and interface, how to do an static router and a PVR policies, how to do a dynamic DNS, and how to do a VPN connection. As we can see in the image 2, we can choose the device by the users or by the speed of them. We have the NVR series and is for most of 2,000 users with up to 2.5 gigabits per second. Here in this course, I will work with this small router. Is a very small router, is a home router. If some of you guys have to do a huge implement or our network, you could choose anything from here. So let me introduce the router here in the cloud. Here, okay. This is my router, my Easy Gateway 105GP2, and as we will see before, I can track everything from here. I can enter by eWeb only clicking here in eWeb. If I click here, they automatically shows me to create a tunnel. For this, I will choose only a 1 hour tunnel and I will click here in create. And we have to wait and it's done. If I click here in open, I automatically redirect to the inner configuration of my router. As we can see here, the project name is the same. The account brand banded to this device is the same as here as my cloud and we can see some of the configuration of my backpack. And we will see here, if I want to enter directly to the device, I have to click here in Gateway. And I will automatically enter to the device. So here is the gateway. Let me change, the language to C here, and it's done. Okay, here is my eWeb. Is kind of different that my interface here. For example, if I enter to the device, to the router here in device, I only see a brief of them. If I want to change some of the configuration of the router, I have to click here in device config and we will see all the features of the gateway. If I click here in interface, for example, I will see all the ports and the configuration of the ports. For example, the LAN 0, I have the interface type of access or a trunk. If I need to pass a VLAN from here, I will click in trunk and I will put here or change here the allowed VLANs for this port. I have to LAN 1, I have to LAN 2. That is, this port is used to plug through the switch. And I mentioned before, with this router, I have 2 WAN ports. By default, we have 3 LAN ports, 4 LAN ports and 1 WAN port. If I have another ISP, I could change this LAN port into a WAN port. And as we can see here, if I click in 1.0, for example, I see another sort of configuration of another sort of feature that we can change here. In 1.0, I can do a IPv4 or IPv6 configuration and change, for example, the DHCP to an static IP to a PPOE and interface alias, and I can change the bandwidth of this port, and we can change the configuration in the LAN to one. How to do this is very easy. I click here in my eWeb. You have to take notes of them. If I want to change this, I have to enter to the eWeb portal and click here in one. And we can see here a single line or a dual line. In a single line field, we can change exactly the same as we can see here. For example, the DHCP to an static IP to a subnet mask to a DNS server. We can change the DNS server, put in here, for example, 8x8x8.8 to change to the Google's DNS. If I want to change the another port, we have to click here into our line, and we will see another kind of configuration like the one, and we can change everything again. And we can see a lot settings, and we can change these settings to choose what ISP use in our network. For example, we can change the load balancing to active secondary. As we can see here, the balance mode, the traffic we will distribute across multiple links according to the weight of each one port. And the primary and secondary mode, all the traffic is routed over the primary interface, for example, my 10. And once the primary interface fails, traffic will be switched over the secondary interface. If there are multiple or primary or secondary interface, the weight of this interface must be set. For load balancing, this will be automatically, and the active secondary, for example, we will choose which of our ISP use. For example, if I have Verizon, for example, Verizon with 1 gigabit per second, and the secondary I have AT&T, for example, to 500 megabits per second, I configured the Verizon to as my primary interface and AT&T as my secondary interface. So we can do a load balancing here, for example, and we can program the rate of uplink and downlink link to our interface here. Inclusive, we will see the line detection here to a destination IP to see if the connection responds. So we will imagine that I have two ISP. So for now, I only have one. We click in dual line. We will set here exactly as default. And if I click here in save, the configuration will be active. And if I coming back into my cloud and I refresh the page, we will see the change into this port. If some of you guys remember, a couple of minutes ago, before I do the configuration, this port will be see exactly this, and later I change the configuration and see exactly as at the 10. By DHCP, by interface alias, by IP configuration, for example. As if we see here in the image, we see this port, this port chooses by one port. If I want to change again the configuration of this one, for example, I choose to keep for only one ISP, I can choose again my one port to a LAN 3 port, and I have to enter again to my eWeb, to my router, and click it again here in single line and save the configuration. Later, the system activating the configuration and the operation is succeed. And take this into account. If I refresh the page, we will see the LAN 3 ports as the another one ports. So the configuration of the port now is in LAN mode, and if I change this, change into a one port. So we can create a VLAN from here. What is the key, or what is the topic from here? If I create the VLAN here in VLAN configuration, if I add a new VLAN, the configuration of this new VLAN only uh, only we only see the configuration in the router, not in the access point and not in the switch, only in the router. If I create one VLAN, for example, the VLAN 5, and the description is a test VLAN, for example, test VLAN, and it start with 192.168.5.1, and the subnet mask is 255.255.255.0 with the range 192.168.5.1 through 192.168.5.2. Okay, and the list time that, I don't know, 2 days. And if I click here in save, I create another VLAN, but I only create this VLAN in the router. The switch and the access point didn't have the VLAN 5. I have to create the VLAN 5 in the switch and in the access point if I want to use it into my network. I will teach you a little later how to create a VLAN in all our network infrastructure. Now, for example, let me show you now. This is for the interface. This is for a multi one for the router, and we can do a static router, the PVR policy, for example, but it's very easy, it's very simple. We only have to choose here in device config. We will see here routing field, and we only have to click here. For example, if I want to create a static routing, we click here in a static router, and they guide to us to how to do this configuration. For example, if I want to create this static routing, I only have to put a destination address. If I want to redirect the traffic to another segment of IRP, I only have to put into here with the subnet mask and the next hop. And we have to choose the egress interface. If I have to, I don't know, 10.5.25.106, for example, with that one, sorry. And the next hop, we have to choose with to which interface or with which hub we want to redirect this traffic with which interface. In this case, I will choose, for example, one to all my data, VLAN 5 if I only redirect the traffic into the VLAN 5, or the VLAN 233 if I want to redirect to my native VLAN. So it's very easy to do an static router here, and it's very easy to do, for example, a PVR here. If we remember, a PVR is a policy routing. It's very easy to configure it here. You only have to click here in add root, and we have to choose the protocol type by IP, by ICMP, by TCP, by UDP, or a custom, for example, with which protocol, which source IP, on which destination IP. If I click in IP, we have to choose a source IP address if, but for example, I want to create a policy for only one segment of the network, I click here in custom, and I click, for example, one by one by one by that one through, sorry, here, one by one by one by 4, and this will be my range of my policy. Only this range of IPs will be applicate this policy or these rules. And we have to choose the destination IP if is all of our devices are a custom, for example, we can choose the range of destination IP for this policy. And we have to choose here the outgoing interface. For example, from here, I only have one port, and we have two PBR name. And here we can activate or deactivate the policy. So it's very easy to put a new PVR here. And we can do the URL routing too. It's very easy. So it's very important to take into account to the priority of our configuration into the router. Here we can see the priority is PVR is bigger than URL and is bigger than the static routing and is bigger to ISP. So this is the priority. And we see here is maximum supported configuration of 30 tips data. So it's very important to take into account into this for do the static configuration of the router. So we can also do a dynamic DNS. It's a very useful tool for our network. We can choose 3 types of dynamic DNS. We have DNS, we have no IP, and we have a Reyee DNS. It's very easy to configure a dynamic DNS. We will configure here, and we will choose here the dynamic DNS of the Reyee. We only have to click here to disable, to enable, and we have to put a domain name for our policy and choose the DNS name. If we choose reyeedns.com or reyeedns.com, for this case, I will choose exactly this name at convpn1.reyeedns.com, and we have to map this this name to a public IP or through a one IP. For example, I have this public IP because I only have a private IP here. So if you have, for example, another one IP or another ISP, we can choose to which interface we will attend the data. So we click here in public IP, we see here my public IP, and we only have click here in save, and we will see if the configuration is currently working. Here I have here my CMD, and let me show you, and let's look up with here, and we click in enter, we can see the server and the address, and we have here my previously configured domain name with the same public address that is the 181.237.16.61. So is working the dynamic DNS from here. So with the dynamic DNS, we will do a BPM connection. It's very easy. Let me show you. We have to enter to the device config and click here and VPN. As we can see, we will see one policy. We can create the new policy if we click here in add VPN policy. We have to put a remark or a name of the policy, and we have to choose if we can do a site-to-site VPN or a client-to-site VPN. In this case, I will do a client-to-site VPN. Let me enter to here, a client-to-site VPN with which, let me here, with which mode we have L2TP over IPsec, we have L2TP, we have OpenVPN. As we can see, we didn't choose OpenVPN. Why? Because I have another policy with OpenVPN, so we only have to choose one at a time, or P2P. With a server domain or with an IP. So in this case, I will choose client to site VPN because I will do a scenario like I am a remote worker and I need to do some printers in the EPCOM headquarters in El Paso, for example. So I will do a client to site VPN with OpenVPN. I already do the configuration here, but let me show you that the configuration is very easy, it's very simple. We choose remark, we choose OpenVPN, and we have to choose the server IP and the domain. In this case, I already have a dynamic DNS configured in my router. So I choose dynamic DNS with the same name as I create before with you. So we have to put EPCOM VPN, that is my domain name, with the regeedns.com, and we have to choose the server mode. And the server mode is by account, by certified, and by account and certified. As we can click here, and client authentication mode is included which an account is an authenticate based in a username and a password. A certified is an authentication based on the server certified. And an account and certified is an authentication based on both account and certified. For this, we will choose account. And later I will be teaching you guys how to put the account. And which protocol? My protocol will be choose an UDP protocol with which IP tool is the segment of the network to do the VPN tunnel. So I will choose, for example, 10.80.12.0/24. As we can see here is a virtual IP address assigned by the server to the client because I choose server to the client after they use the Connect VPN. And the subnet is all the information that is the subnet with the client is allowed to access. If for example, I do another VLAN here, and I will choose the test VLAN, that is my VLAN number 5, for example, and my VLAN by default. In this case, I will put all my traffic because I will choose the VLAN number 1. And if I want, for example, to redifuser the traffic in that only pass to the test VLAN, to the VLAN number 5, I will pick here in test VLAN and not here in VLAN number 1. But from here, I will choose this. And I can do a flow control too and enable the all traffic over VPN. And this is very important to see why. As we can see here, after this is enabled, all the traffic of the client, in this is my case, will be routed through the VPN tunnel. This is very important if we can do a VPN for manage the traffic or the network connection of our workers remotely, for example. All the traffic will be routed through my VPN. So if I do, for example, a flow control or a policy to manage the traffic for the red, we can enter from this and I will be working. But if I enable here, the connection will be very slow and takes more time to respond the VPN. So we have to take this into account. For this case, I didn't activate this, and we have another advanced options like change the port ID. As we remember, the OpenVPN works with the port 1194, and we can change the DLS authentication and the data compression and the click for that we can change everything from here. I didn't change anything. I will be this exactly the same, and we click here in save. All the configuration is already done, and here is a client to site VPN. So how this is worked? We have to enter to our router. In our router, we see here VPN. If we click here in VPN, we can see all the types of VPN that we can create here. We can see IPsec, we can see L2TP, we can see PPTP, we can see OpenVPN or VPN account. We do the configuration with OpenVPN. If we click here in OpenVPN, we see the the configuration that we already made, the server mode, the protocol, that the IP server address, the port ID, the IP range, etc., etc., etc. If we didn't have the OpenVPN program, we have to click here in download link. I recommend download the OpenVPN software by here. Why? Because this software is the software that work with Reyee. So we have to download the client from here. So with OpenVPN, we have to export a file that we have to use to our client or to our site. How I download this folder is very easy. We have to click here in client config, and we click here in export, and automatically this download this folder. And which kind of fields we see here? An OpenVPN client. If we see here, we will see all the configuration that we set before, like the IP address, like the port, and another configuration to see that this kind of connection is working, and how we will put this to route. In my case, I didn't have an public IP. So I will do the test with another router in another house. So we have to open my OpenVPN, be in settings. If I here in settings, we will see here in advance the folder configuration of my VPN. For example, if I am the client, I have to copy all of this and paste into this URL. If I enter this URL, I will see, for example, here, I will see my configuration. In my case, to do this experiment with you guys, I change a little the configuration of the OpenVPN. Why? Because I am already doing by a port forwarding mode. So I change with OpenVPN with another port. But if some of you guys have a public IP, you didn't have to change anything. So let it put this work. Remember, you only have to download the folder, copy and paste to this root into the other computer. So let it put this work here, and we click in connect. But before I do the connection, if you remember, we set this to an account, and how I manage the accounts. I have to click here and VPN account, and we have to add an account for this case, and this username and this password will be used for enter to the VPN all of times that we want to use the tunnel. For example, test one, and the password should be, I don't know, test 1 2 3 4 5, and we click in add, and we will see the user and account. If I create 5, 10, 100 accounts, I have to create it from here, and they asking me to my username and my password every time I want to connect to my VPN. If I click here and I click in connect, remember I will do this with a port forwarding with another router in another location. My username from here is Marley, and the password is 5 6. If I click here in OK, the client is now connected. So the connection with the VPN is working. As we can see here in the icon of the OpenVPN, we see the connect to the client, the connect signs 103 AM, and my assigned IP and is 10.80.12.2. And if I click here in my CMD and I see my config, IP config, for example, I will see my two IPs, the Ethernet connection with 192.168.1.15, that is my private connection, but given to me by my ISP, and I have another connection, as we can see here, unknown adapter local area connection with another IP that is 10.80.12.2. This is my connection with my VPN. So let me show you. In our example, I am a remote worker from EPCOM, and I need to printer some document in the office there in El Paso. So I already do the connection. So let me show you. If you remember, my segment is 192.168.1.15. I will enter to, for example, add 168. 0.61 is the IP of my printer there in El Paso. Is another segment, and I can enter to this segment. Why? Because my BPM is working. So as we can see, here is the here's the main page of the laser printer. So I can, in our example, I can printer my document from here. I can access to the router in the other location too. For example, I didn't access, but I throw that one. This is my other router in another location. So I can do this VPN with this the dynamic DNS server. Is very easy, it's very simple. So let me disconnect here my VPN to see if this working, but obviously not. If I can here and click in disconnect, for example, the connection is done. So let me check here again my CMD. If I click here in ipconfig, we didn't see the tunnel and we didn't have access to this to 0 to 61. We cannot access. Why? Because the BPM isn't enabled. So it's working. It's very easy to put this to work. Remember, I do some of change into the BPM client folder. Why? Because I didn't have a public IP. If you have a public IP, you only have to download the folder and put this work and running. So this is for the gateway. We learn to change the interface, to change the multi-one interface, to do a dynamic DNS, and to do a BPM connection. As we can see, it's work. It is already work. So let me change into our presentation. We do all the thing, all of these topics, and we will jump to our switch. In our switch, we will see the switch in general. We will see how to do a port and an interface. We will see how to do a long distance transmission. It's very important that you guys can see this, and we can see how to create a VLAN and LDP, and what how to enable the DHCP snooping. So let's go jump into the cloud again, and I will show you. It's very easy to see. For example, for this, I can enter to the eWeb page of our devices. Sorry, we only have to click in devices. Remember, and if we click here, we can click here in eWeb and we can jump into the main configuration of the switch. This switch, as if you can remember, is a PoE switch, and we can track all the basic configuration of the switch here in devices. As we can see, it's a 5-port switch, and the port number 5 is plugged into our router. We can see this here. And we will use port number 1 and 2 through our IPs. We currently powered our APs by the switch. That's why the PoE load is in 9 through 54 watts. And we see here the interface list of our ports in the switch. Port 1, 2, 3, 4 is enabled, connected, disconnected, the duplex mode, and the port type. We can change this. I will show you later. And we can see here the VLAN and the PoE status. As I said before, the port number 1 and 2 is the PoE is enabled. Why? Because they are powered through our APs. We can do the traffic or do the oh, sorry, I lost the we can do the track of the per packet statics with this, and we can see another things too, like for example the device status, the uplink and downline traffic, and the speed. Um, and we will reset the ports. Is very useful for the cameras. For example, if I plug a camera in the port number 3 and the camera is disconnected or is shows me a little failures, I can reset only this port. Is very easy. Let me show you here in the application. It's very important to see the application is exactly the same as we can see here. If I enter here, for example, I can reboot only one port, not all the device. For example, here I enter to the switch, I will see exactly the same. From 1 to 5, the uplink, the PoE mode, and here is I can reboot the port if I need it. Only we have to click here and click here in restart. It's very easy. And we can do from here, clicking here in reset. So this is the main brief of the switch. We can see the interface rate 2, the PoE list, the detail entry, and the login story. So we can do a little configuration from here. What kind of configuration? For example, if I click here in configuration and I click in interface, I can see the interface status of our switch. As we can see here in the port number 1, the status is enabled, so the port is on. I can change to disable if I didn't have to use the port. I can change the negotiation of duplex if I have to. I can change the speed if I have to, and I can change the capability of the PoE as I need. I can change the VLAN too, but I have to enable the management mode of the switch. I will show you a little later. For now, I have to, as we can see here, in the VLAN mode, these labels we can change here too. In the VLAN mode, we can see here on manage or management mode. My switch supports management mode. So we can manage all the VLANs or create or edit the VLANs through here to the switch. If I click here in management mode and I click in set and I will click in OK, I will see the VLAN configuration. As we can see, only have to VLAN 1. If you guys remember, I create a VLAN only to the router, and now we can see exactly the same. I didn't have any other VLANs in here in the switch. I have to create the VLAN ID, for example, the 5, and I will remake for example, this webinar, and I click and save. And I have the VLAN number 5. If I want to create another VLAN, I only have to add the other VLAN, for example, the VLAN 25 and test 1, and we click and save. So as we create a couple of VLANs, we can change the port status of our switch. For example, if you remember, the port number 1 didn't show us before this part. And we can change this. For example, if I want to pass another type of traffic in my port number 1, I have to change the configuration to a trunk port and change the allowed VLAN to pass through this specific port. And same as the port number 2 and the port number 5 and the port number 3 and 4. As we can see here, if I click here in 1, the port show us with a little blue background. If I choose 2, 3, 5, 4, sorry, and the 1 through the 4, we see here the selected ports 1 through 4. And if I change here to a trunk port, and if I click here in save, all the 4 ports will be reconfigured to be a trunking port with these allowed VLANs. So if you guys, for example, want to pass 3 or 4 or 5 VLAN only through the ports 1 and 2, you only have to click in the 2 of these ports. You will be the entire configuration in the entire network. For example, I create another VLAN through the 5. I create the 15, I guess. So if I put this in trunk, here in VLAN, if I put this in trunk and I configure it to pass the VLAN 25, I have to create the VLAN 25 in the router. So that's why I will show you guys a little later how to do this VLAN configuration through the entire network infrastructure. So we have to see here the loop prevention, or LDP. All the switches have this function activated by default. Is already enabled to prevent any loop, to prevent any broadcast storm, to prevent the file or our entire network. So we'll be show you us how this work. I will make a loop in my switch. Let me show you how I put the loop. So let me show you my phone. As we can see here, here's my backpack, here's my devices. As we can see, we didn't have a loop. We have the port number 3 and 4 empty, so I made a loop through the port 3 and 4. Let me show you here. Let me make a loop through the ports and show you how this is work. So I already made the loop. Let me show you here again my phone. Here is the loop. As we can see, we put a loop in through the port 3 and 4, and my entire network isn't comes down. And if I see here in monitoring, for example, we will see a alarm here. For example, here, sorry, if we will see here the alarm here. We will see a switch lab in which project with this source and the date that the loop is created. As if we click here again into our switch, sorry, here devices, here in is the switch, blah blah blah. We will see the port number 3 and 4 here, and the ports are disabled. Why? Because we have a loop here. And if we enter to the application, we will see exactly the same. Let me show you the application and how how we can see this loop here. 1 second. Here, if I enter to the switch, I see the port number 4 in red, and I see here the port number 4 with this icon into them, with the with this label, and show us a loop. So it's very useful tool for us. And we can see here the port with a symbol that shows us the loop. So it's very easy to manage a loop. Let me unplug the loop here and here, and refresh the application and show you guys how to see this here. If I refresh the application too, we didn't see the loop anymore because I just unplug the loop. So this is for the loop, and we will see the long distance transmission. This is a key feature of our CCTV for a CCTV solution. Is why? Because we only have to 100 meters to plug a camera. With a long distance transmission, the transmission speed of the ports will be changed to full duplex to 10 megabits per second, and that allowed to us to extend this distance through 250 meters. It's very easy to configure. It is very flexible. For example, if I want to enable the long distance transmission through the port 3 and 4, I select the ports and I click in save, and the interface configuration is succeed. And I have the long distance into the port 3 and 5. If I want to change to the default configuration to the full duplex again, I only have to click here and again, and the configuration is succeed. Remember, we can do exactly the same by the app. Let me enter again to the app and do the configuration. Yes, let me let me enter to here. We can see the loop prevention. We will see the DHCP snooping here is here in the switch, here in config. Long distance transmission, as we can see here, they explain to us after this is enabled, the transmission and speed will be changed to a full duplex, and we will see the already configured ports of our switch. If I click and click, the configuration is succeed again, and let me see. Is very easy. If I have another switch with this, we can change the configuration as we need to use it. So it's very easy to configure this. So and later we can enter to all this kind of configuration from here for the switch part. As we can see here in interface, I can see the ports as before. Do the VLAN here. We can see all our VLANs and we can manage of them. For example, I want to change the number of, if I want delete this VLAN, I only click here and click in OK, and I delete the VLAN 25. I will do the loop prevention from here. It's already enabled. I've do another port setting from here, and let me show you how to enable the DHCP snooping. Remember, the DHCP snooping is very useful for prevent some problems with the DHCP server to the client. So if we click here in enable, the system asking us to select the trust and the trusted port of our device. The uplink port is selected by default. So if I have a server and is directly plugged in the port number 5 of the port number 4, for example, I only have to click here in the port number 4 and click here in save. And that's it. Is a trusted port. And if I want to change the port through the port number 1, I only have to deselect the port number 4 and select the port number 1 and click in save. And if I, for example, I unplug or I delete my server, I only have to deselect my port number 1 and click in save. And if I want disable to the DHCP snooping configuration, it's very easy to configure this feature in the cloud. Is very useful too for large networks. So you have the key. So here, let's go back to our presentation. We see the switch, we see the port and interface and how to configure the different interface. We will see how to enable and disable the long distance transmission for a camera solution. And we see how to create the VLAN into the switch, how to change the manage or unmanage mode into the switch, and how to do our RLDP, which is the loop. We already do a loop in our network, and we see how to do the DHCP snooping. So let's go through the wireless field or the access point field. We will see a description of our devices, how to work a WIO, this is the Wi-Fi optimization, how to enable or disable the roaming. The most of our APs have the roaming layer 2 and layer 3, and how to create an SSID, how to configure the radio limit at the radio planning, and how to do a mesh. So again, let's back to the cloud. Okay, we are in the cloud. We can configure our APs or do the track of our APs from here. For example, if I only want to see the ceiling IP, I click here in the devices and I can see the rate aesthetics, the PoE of the one, the radio type, and the user list that I have here. And for example, I have my cell phone that I show you here currently plugged in my AP, and we will be the tracking here to the log history, to the optical mode info, to the wireless experience. For example, I can see the coverage, the roaming, the capacity, the throughput, and a real-time statistics from here. I can see here all this data, and I can see through all the devices. See if I want to if I want to see the other IP, I only have to click here and we will see exactly the same. So we have a useful tool for an environments to use a lot of IPs. And this is called WIO or Wi-Fi optimization. And this is a very useful tool, and we can find that here in a smart config in optimization, we can see here in wireless intelligent optimization of WIO, or we can enter here in network-wide Wi-Fi optimization. What is WIO? Is a tool that we can help to us to maximize the wireless performance by optimizing your network. It's very important to say that if I do or I put the wheel, my network will be down for 5 or 6, 7 minutes. Why? Because they analyze all the spectrum and change some of configuration of our IPs. That's why in instruction we will say upgrade LDAPs to the latest version. We is not supporting IP with IP address. Currently only the optimization of 20, 40, and 80 megahertz is supported in the band of 5 gigabits, and please perform the optimization after APs in the target area are online. If I do in optimize now, they show me a pop-up that asking me if I agree with rebooting of the configuration. That's why here in estimate optimization time, I can see a brief of the time that they will be running. I can click here in quick optimization 2 or a deeper optimization. If I click here, they show me the pop-up, the warning about during this optimization, the IP may switch channels and collect data. We may result in a temporary disconnection and after user experience. This situation may last for some times. You are advised to enable schedule optimization if you require an internet connection for the time being. So I can do a schedule of this. For example, if I am working in an office, I can schedule this scan this optimization in no business hours. For example, after the 5 or the 10 p.m. and I can schedule here, and I can enter to a GNP snooping here, but I recommend to do this wheel when we didn't need the network up. Why? Because it's very deep. This is deep scan, and they change a lot of terms in the APs here. So the network will be down for this time. So this is for WIO. They change a lot into our access point and our network, and we can change the roaming too here in sorry, in device config. We can see here the roaming. Let me see. Here is the IP in network wide AI roaming. Sorry, it's an AI roaming. So the most of our APs have the roaming feature. The roaming is able to do in layer 2 and layer 3. As we can see, the layer 2 roaming is already enabled by default, the L2 roaming, but we have to enable the L3 roaming if we need it. Remember, the roaming, when it's enabled, uh, we can change through our connection through the access point into a huge area without change the SSID configuration. So it's very useful. So I recommend to enable and do all the configuration here. Remember, the L2 roaming is enabled by default, and here in network wide in AI roaming, we can see and we can track all the configuration. From here, we can see the roaming experience, experiences, the number of ROMs, and in here, in this case, I only have 2 APs with the same SSID, as we can see. And we enable this by default, and we can enable the AI roaming. As we can see, tailor roaming optimization profiles for each other client at the project site, delivering seamless connectivity and optimal user experience. We can enable the AI roaming, and we can track our roaming here in roaming dashboard. And we can see the service level and the roaming route. If I invited you to see the webinar to see the practice of this, I can see the route of the roaming. For example, I have one AP in the enter of my house and another AP in the yard, so I can see the route of the signal into my house, and I can upload a full plan of. I can already do a full plan with the intensity of the signal. Is very useful. It's very easy to do the roaming. We have the AP Mesh 2. We can do a mesh with this ceiling IP and some of the home Wi-Fi routers and switch. Is very easy. You only have to make sure if all 2 devices are powered on, and make sure if both IP mesh are within each other with the Wi-Fi coverage. What's mean? The other IP must be in the same radio of coverage of these 2 APs that I have, and I only have to plug it on and click here in a scan to add a mesh AP. Is very easy. It's very simple to enable the mesh AP. So another feature that we have with the wireless is we can change if for some reason we cannot made a WIO configuration, we can change sort of the configuration of the APs here in radio limit and radio planning, and even in radio. If we click here in radio, we can see if the radio is enabled, the country or region of the radio frequency, the client limit. We can enable a client limit of each AP with some of key point from here. We can enable the DFP. The DFE detects a radar interference and move to the wireless network with another frequency, and we can change the threshold if we if we have to change. This is a very useful tool. I recommend to do only if you have some expertise to these types of environment. So I can do a schedule shutdown of my APs if I want. If I need to put in down my network to a couple of hours through a weekend, for example, I can schedule this, and I can configure the radio planning here. For example, I have a list of my APs with my IP models, with my serial numbers, with automatically channel to the power automatic and to both of bands. If I click here in configuration, I can change the current configuration of the APs with the channel. For example, I can choose the channel to one specific channel, or let the channel in automatic. I can change the power of the AP or the roaming sensitivity. If I want to do a mesh, for example, for a roaming, I can play with these values if I if I want to implement a solution by Wi-Fi by roaming. So I can change here the threshold or the response threshold for both of the channel. I can disable one or two channels if I want to, and I can only apply click in here, and I can do exactly the same with both IP here in radio planning. I can see here in a layout our configuration, and I can import of this. And last but not least, I can change the rate limit of our network. For example, here show us the internet speed is 1 megabit per second for browsing web and 8 megabits per second for watching videos and 24 megabits for watching high definition videos. Is an example for user. As we can see here, we can choose a radio limit by user, by wireless, by IP, or by packet. By user, if I click here in add, I can establish a radio limit here in my phone, for example. If I click here in apply, I already implement the configuration here in my smartphone. Or here I choose by Mac. I have to put the client Mac, and I will upload the radio limit of, of this device. So we can choose here in wireless, and we can change the radio limit of my SSID of webinar, for example, per user or shared by all user. For example, so for per user, I will be establish a radio limit of, for example, I don't know, here current rate is 0 to 123.1.7 gigabits per second. Let me show megabits and gigabits. And for example, I can put 1. So the current rate is 1 kilobit, then in a range of 1 to 1.5. And I can put a download rate limit per user or share to all the users that will be plugged or will be connected into our SSID. We can do this into AP for each device. We can enable the uplink of the downlink rate limit by Accesspoint in the same range as before. And we will do this presentation, do this configuration through a packet, for a broadcast packet, for a multicast packet. This is a very useful tool if we can do a limit for by user or by SSID. And I already explained the mesh. I already explained the mesh. It's very easy to see this. So before I will enter to the key feature of the brand, let me show you how to do the VLAN configuration of the entire network. As we can see before, for example, if I click here in SSID, I can see the currently SSID that I configured before, that we call webinar. If I add another SSID, for example, test 1, and I click here in Do Not Encrypt, for example, if I click here in Advanced, I can choose here the VLAN. If I choose here is the user not pay in the same VLAN. If I click here in another VLAN, we have to put a number of VLAN. VLAN 5, VLAN 10, VLAN, I don't know, 100. But if I put here, for example, the VLAN number 10, the configuration will be applied only into our access point, not into the switch and not into our router. So we will create the SSID test 1 bundled to the VLAN number 10, but only in the access point, but not in the switch and not in the router. So our configuration, it didn't work. So I recommend do the VLAN configuration from here, from device network-wide network. We can see the planet VLAN, and if we can see here, if we click in VLAN number 1, we will see the background of the devices in blue, in a blue color. Does mean that the configuration will be applied or is applied into the router, into the switch, and into the APs. If I click here in the VLAN number 5, I only see the blue background in the router. So we didn't have the VLAN number 5 in the switch or even in the access point. So if I send a packet of the VLAN number 5 into the router, it will be passed, but it will be dropped by the switch because the VLAN isn't configured in the switch. So we have to take in account into this. If I didn't want to create here, I have to create the VLAN number 5 here into this switch, into the VLAN 5, and later I have to do, if I want a wireless VLAN, for example, I have to create an SSID into the APs and bundle to the VLAN number 5. We also, I will do a wireless VLAN from here, but I can also enter through here to as my configuration, connect clients to the network, and I will click here and automatically redirect to here. But is in network-wide network, let me add a wireless VLAN, for example, to redirect the traffic. So if I click here in add and click here in wireless VLAN, they asking me to a Wi-Fi name, for example, no, that's no, VLAN test, and will be encrypt, and the test will be VLAN 1, 2, 3, 4, and in advance, I wanted 2 bands and an encryption. If I click in next, they will be asking me to the network. So, vamos a colocar VLAN 10 and the VLAN ID. So we will choose VLAN 10 and they automatically given to me the file gateway and an IP segment. If I didn't want to use this, I only have to change this number. For example, if I want to band to the VLAN 20, it's okay. But for this case, I want to use the VLAN number 10 with this default gateway with this AP segment. I can change the subnet mask too if I want to. So it's very easy. So we click here in next, and later we will see all the configuration will be applied in our router, in our switch, and in our IPs. As we can see here, they show us, for example, in the IPs, in the 2 APs, that's why we can see here the number 2, and the SSID VLAN test, sorry, I spelling wrong, with this password, 12345. VLAN 1234. And in the gateway, we add to port VLAN 10 with this IP, with this subnet mask, and we'll be add the VLAN in the pool with a list time. And in the switch, we add the VLAN 10 to the port 1, 2. Why? Because in the port 1, 2 is directly plug to the APs. So the port 1 and 2 in the switch will be configured as a trunk port with the NAT VLAN 1 and the VLAN number 10. And this will be an automatic configuration of all of the devices. It's better than enter the router and later than the switch and later the access point. So if we click here in apply, they automatically do the configuration in all our devices. We see the if it's working a little later when okay it succeed. So test webinar is succeed. The VLAN number 10 with this default gateway with this IP segment. With this DHCP server and gateway. If we click here and check network, we will be see our VLAN number 10, where in the router, in the switch, in the access point as our VLAN number 1. And we will be see our VLAN with this number and with this password. I can change the number if I want to and click in save. And will be upload the configuration in the router in our IPs. Why? Because this and this and these are the devices that will need to upload the configuration. As we can see, we didn't change anything in the switch because in the switch we only configure the VLAN number 10. We only enable and we only change the port number 1 and 2 to Trump ports. So we click and apply, and we already do the change in both of the devices. So we will check if the VLAN is working later than this. If we click in check network, we will see the upload here. So let me show you my phone again to see if the VLAN configuration is working. So I have my phone here. Let me enter here to the Wi-Fi mode. We are currently connected to the webinar and VLAN test. And the password is upper letter VLAN 1234, as we can see here. And if we click here in connect, let me see if I already connect into this SSID. And if we see here, my segment is 192.168.10 as our VLAN, that 2. This is the way to configure it a VLAN. We can do an wired VLAN. For example, we only have to click here in add a wired, and we have to choose the ports that will be configured as a trunk ports. It's very easy. And we can manage all the VLANs here. For example, I have a VLAN number 5 only creating the router. If I click here in more, and if I delete the VLAN, if I click in OK, the VLAN is already late. And if I click here in the interface of the gateway, I didn't see the VLAN number 5. I only see the VLAN 10 and the VLAN and the native VLAN. It's very easy. Is a very useful tip for me. So and the last part of the course will be see how to do an captive portal, how to do an application blocking and flow control, how to share our project, and how to do a NAT transversal. Is very easy to configure this. So let me show you our cloud again. We will start with a captive portal. Is very useful tool for an hotel, an office, for example. To configure a captive portal is very simple. We have to, first of all, we have to create a VLAN. For this case, let me delete this VLAN, or no. Let me add a new VLAN, a wireless VLAN. Why? Because, for example, we will be in an office and I need to create a captive portal for the guest. And the guest or my employees, for example, will be access only for a user and password. And my guest will be access to the network through a voucher. So I need to separate the SSID. So let me captive, for example, guest. We will choose and do not encrypt. Why? Because we have to enter to our SSID free without password, but we will enter to the network only with a voucher. If we click here in next with service reamer, test guest, for example, test guest with the VLAN ID number 20, and it's the same. It's the same segment with this default gateway and with this configuration to be applied in our of our device. And if we click here and apply, the configuration will be done. And it's done. So if click here in OK, and we click here in check network, we will see that test guest abandoned to the VLAN number 20. So how we will do this captive portal is very easy. We have to click here in add an account and click here in captive portal. And we will see this this page. A new authentication for a new version upgrade, support APs and gateway. So if we click here in add app captive portal, we will be fill this scheme. The policy name, for example, guest out. What is the policy mode? As we can see, we can choose the cloud authentication, and all the authentication will be done by our cloud or from here for the Reyee cloud, or will be use an external authentication mode. In this case, we will choose the cloud authentication with which device? With our gateway. We will do the authentication by the IP, but in this case, I have the gateway. So I choose the gateway. And with which network? Which network will be apply the guest authentication of this captive portal? Test guest. If I want to ban another VLAN, I only have to choose the VLAN number 10 or the default VLAN. But in this case, I only want to ban it to the VLAN number 20. So it's seamless online, so we will see it, and with which period of time? Only 1 day in this case. With this current project or current project. And it's very important to enter this in a ad page with the portal name, test guest, for example, and we have to choose the method of the authentication. One-click login is only show us a default page, and we only have to click in access of the network. In this case, we will work with a voucher like a hotel or like a office, for example. It's a voucher. We will configure that account by the user and by the password, for example, for the employees of the office, for example. But from this example, we will choose a voucher. Is exactly the same, but a different ways. We will choose the login URL. If you have a website of your company, of your hotel, of I don't know. If we choose to show YouTube, for example, we only have to change this. Is very easy. Only have to copy and paste here, and we can change this page. We can delete the logo or change the logo. We can upload the logo and change through the logo of your company. We have to change the position of the logo. We can change the view of the portal, like the mobile of the desktop mode. We can change add the image, we can upload another image, or we can change a solid color. We can change a welcome message if we want, and we can enable another language by default. For example, if I enter here to the default language, I can put this uh, of uh, of my page, and we can put this advertisement if I want to show, or if I want to put some kind of advertisement of some kind of publicity in my captive portal. For example, a type or a picture or a video, I only have to configure this with the color of the text, the side text of the bottom color, etc., etc. So it is very easy to change everything. We only have to click here in OK. Here in OK. And we will see our page. It's very important to select the page for the portal to, and will be enabled to use it in our policy. As we can see, we see here the checkpoint, and we click here in OK. And now we will see the guest authentication with which mode and with which time. So we have to create the vouchers. Why? Because as we can if you remember, we configured this portal through vouchers. So it's very easy. We have to click here in authentication and accounts, and click here in user management. Here will be see the account, a voucher, and a user group. If we click here in account, we will be create an account and a password for our authentication method. And how we can create the voucher or create accounts. Here in a user group, we have to add a new user group with a name, test guest, with a price. We didn't want to make a price with which currently device. This means how many devices we can plug, or we can connect into our SSID with one voucher. In my case, I only choose one with which period of time, 13 minutes, with which quota of megabytes, 100 megabytes, with which upload or download rate. In my case, I will choose unlimited. I will choose 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 megabits if I didn't want to collapse of the network. So for this example, I will choose unlimited, and I click here in OK. And as we can see, we have our first user group. So we go back here to voucher, and we click here in add voucher. How many vouchers we need? 5 only for the test. And with which user group will be banded our voucher? With test guest. We can upload some kind of information about our vouchers, for a first name, a last name, an email, a phone number, etc. Or we can change the codes of the voucher. For example, from here we can create a voucher, alphanumeric voucher with a length of 6 digits. We can choose only an alphabetic one or only a numeric one. But from this case, I only I put this by default, and then we click in OK. So we have here our vouchers, and with our period of time. Let me show you how this works in my phone. We have to enter to our captive portal here in the SSID, and is captive guest. and later we redirect to our page that we configured and edit before. And they asking me for a code, and let me put the first code of the voucher for ASAP 8 and click in login. And that's it. We are connected. If I upload here, cancel, sorry. If I refresh the page, I will see this voucher used. Why? Because I already used it in use with 13 minutes and is activated at this time with one device. And if I see here in my phone, for example, here in the network, I have an IP segment of this VLAN, of the VLAN number 20, as we configured before. So this is how the captive portal works. Works exactly the same for the account. We only have to create another group of users and bind it into the account. I recommend to create another VLAN for the other group of users, but it's exactly the same. If, for example, I create 20 vouchers and I need 100 more, we only have to click to add voucher and do exactly the same. 100 with this user group of test guest, and we will create all. If I want to export these vouchers, we only have to click this and click in print, and we will see this page to print these vouchers. And we can change the logo, for example, and we can upload another logo, and we can edit how count of information we will see in our voucher. For example, I can change the profile name, the download rate, the current devices. I only want to see the upload rate, for example, and I want to and I will be to edit all this kind of information. And last but not least, if I can share this group of voucher, I can sharing by here by a cloud. Is very easy to to share this only the vouchers, only the information of the vouchers. And this is how the captive portal works. It's very easy. It's a very useful tool of our brands. So now we will see how to do an app block and how to do a flow control of our network. Is similar but not is the same. We have to enter here in network wide. We see here flow and app control, and we have to choose what kind of control we will implement in our network. We will choose flow control, or we will be choose the app and website control. In flow control is by default. We can custom a traffic policy. If we can click here in IP, we can select the IP to do this policy. For example, the VLAN 20 for a limit of the IP addresses, of overall limit for the uplink or the downlink to access to the network. And we can change the time that we can implement this kind of control, only the weekends, only the weekdays, or all the time. And we only have to put this policy name. For this case, I will already do the app and website control. And how did this work? For example, I have an office and I want to restrain the connection to the social media. or for YouTube, for example, I have to do a policy to restrict, for example, the social media. Is easy. We only have click in add, and we have to select the IP range to this policy. For example, I will be choose, let me see, the VLAN number 10. If we imagine at the VLAN number 10, if my employee's VLAN, so we can choose the VLAN number 10. If I want to extend my policy to my guests, we only have to click here in the VLAN number 20. But from here, I only want to do this in the VLAN number 10. And later, I have to choose which application or method we will be do the policy by custom approved, by a website, or custom. Here in application, we can see all the application sorted by groups. For example, communication, social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Tumblr, blah, 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 etc. We can search them. For example, I don't know, Netflix. I guess I spelling wrong. Sorry. Sorry. Let me see this. I think I lost the connection. Or no. On news. Yes, I lost the connection. You can hear me well? Sorry, I have a couple of. You can hear me well? Hello? Let me refresh the page. Okay. Okay, app and website control, sorry. And we can select the application with which IP, with the IP of our guest. Okay, and with which application? For example, I want to choose communication and entertainment. And I see all the things. Okay, so we can upload this this application by default. For example, if I want to enable to CapCut, I only have to deselect this or select this. If I permit Netflix, I deselect this and select again. I will be able to see the current application here. And for example, let me see, Netflix, Twitter, and communication is Twitter too. Okay. And with which time? If I want to implement this policy only the weekdays, for example, through the 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., I can custom this schedule, for example, and from here, for example, one by week, by date, and we can choose the day, we can choose the start time, we can choose the end time. From this example, I will choose the weekdays. And what is the test? Guest test webinar. So here we have the application, and only we have to click here in OK. And we add the policy, and the policy is currently enabled. With which client? With clients to the VLAN number 10. Let me see if this is working. I have to change. Let me change the is the VLAN number 10. Let me change the SSID that I connected. As we can see here in my phone, I already changed the SSID that I plug. I am currently in the VLAN test that is binding to the VLAN number 10. As we can see, we have an IP address of 192.168.10.2. And let me see if we can enter to, for example, to Twitter or X. So we didn't have access to Twitter. Let me see if we can Netflix, for example, but we can enter or login. Let me see if we can do any other search into the internet. We can actually do another kind of search into the internet. So the policy is actually working. If I change my connection, for example, we are now in Vilandes. If I change here into a webinar, for example, that is other SSID, is our other SSID that we create before, we have in another segment of the network, we will able to enter to Twitter, for example. Let me see if working. Twitter. And the page is login. So the policy app application is working without problems. So remember, you can edit this policy, you can change the time, you can change the range of this, or you can create another one. So this is for the field of block and flow control. And another thing, how will we share our project? Is very easy. We can share our projects by a period of time, by a handover that is I refuge all of my permissions of the project, for example, and it's very simple to easy to see to do. I will be show you here in the application. Here is the Reyee application. Remember, you can do all these features here in the application or in the cloud is easy. And we have to enter to the project here in test webinar, and we already plug into there or connected into there. And here, sorry, let me see here. We can click here in share. And we have to choose the permissions. We have to choose if the receiver can do some kind of configuration here in reading write, or only read or only see the configuration but not change it at all. So we can choose this, the period of time that we can share this project, by forever, but 1 day, but 1 week, a custom, for example, and we have to choose the receiver of the project. If we click here in share, we have to choose the method that we share. If we click in WeChat, we do a link for WeChat. If we click here in copy link, we will be able to see one link, and this link only works one time. And we have, if we click here in generate QR code, we will see a QR code that we can scan, and the project will be ours for this period of time. We can do an handover of our network. For example, I am integrator and I want to giving some of you guys the project, so we have to click in handover. But when I do the handover of the project, I don't able to enter, to manage, or to see the project because I give it the project to the other person. So it will be do with careful to do a handover. So the project will be we can share the projects to read only, to read and write. We can be hand over the project, and we'll be able to build a network report. And how is a network report? And the network report is a document that we can see all the features in our network, and how we can access to the network report. Here in Delivery Center, we can do here in project report. And the cloud will be generate to us a network report. This network report could be edited by ourselves if we click here in edit. Which parts we can edit? The logo, the project name, the tenant, the copyright, the project description, all the things in here we can edit our report. How or which parts we will see here in the reports? We will see the description of the devices, for example, a switch, a gateway, or the IPs with the description of them with the quantity. If I have another device here plug into our network infrastructure, I can edit here and add the other device. We will see the topology of our network. We will be see the downlink port, the uplink port with the rate and the serial number, and we will see some kind of configuration that we already do. For example, here we see the SSID with the password and with the IP range and the VLAN and the IP segment or of all of them. We can see here the another configuration with the LAN ports. We can see the routing table if we create another static router, for example. We can see the switching configuration. We can see the SSID configuration with the encryption mode, and we will see the authentication of the our net of our portal. And we can change the language of our report. We can edit it, like I said before, and we can download this report and PDF of our Word if we have to create a report for our network implements. So it's a very useful tool. It's very easy. We will able to create the report in our phones. Is very important. All this configuration we can do it by our phones or our tables. We can do a captive portal. We can do a VLAN configuration. We can do a flow and app control. All these features we will done in our app. So it's very easy. And last but not least, to finish this course, we will be able to do a NAT transversal or a port forwarding by our devices. And how to work this is very easy. We only have to click here in device config. We click here in NAT transversal, and we can add a tunnel. And how this is work is very easy. We can create a tunnel, for example, for a camera. If I plug a camera into our network, I be able to access to this camera or this printer or this DVR from here, from my cloud. I can do a NAT to allow us to enter to this. device. Let me see if I can enter to this device because I already plug a camera here. So let me see. Let me see here in ARP. Let me see if I can access to here. Okay, it's a NAT. We can create a new tunnel with client. We can create a tunnel from here, or we can create another tunnel for him. For example, camera. If I choose a camera with which IP, for example, if our camera is 192, the wax is 8, that I don't know, that 100.6, with which port? With the port number 80. With this is an example. This is an example, and click here in OK. For example, see if this is a camera that I already plug into the switch, I will be able to see it through this tunnel. I can be activated like this, and the tunnel will be running for at least 3 hours. For example, I can open this. It's a random IP connection, so it will be, it isn't be working right now because I didn't have anything to plug into the switch. But as we can see, we can enter to this port, to this virtual port in your house, for example, and from here for the cloud, we can enter to this IP. If I want to disable this connection, I only click here in this, and the tunnel is disabled. If I am in a travel in another country, if I need to enter to some kind of device, I can enter by this tunnel. It's very easy. It's very simple and is very useful for us. So, okay, guys, I think we already do the captive portal. We already do the application blocking and flow control. We already do how to project sharing, and we do our NAT transversal. So let me put here again our QR code for the new assistance to the webinar. I asking you, so please download the application and scan this QR code, and you will be access to a demo project to see some of the features of the brand. So I will wait off if any of you guys have any questions about the course. You will be free to asking me in the box question, and I will be response the majority of this. I will be wait for 2 minutes to scan this QR code, and we are done here. Okay, I think it's all. So thank you guys for the time. Thank you for your patience. If one of you want to asking me, you feel free to write me an email, and and we'll be attend to the next our next webinars in YouTube and in our page. So thank you for the time, and we will see in the next. Have a very good day. Bye bye.